بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال ربي شرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुह। मैं हूँ ज़िदान हामिद और मैं आपसे मुखातिब हूँ जियो तेज के प्लेटफॉर्म से, और मैं आपके लिए लेके आया हूँ प्यारे नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की प्यारी बातें. So before, in the first program, the introduction, today's episode number 2 of प्यारे नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की प्यारी बातें. In the first program, we were talking about in Peyari Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki pyari batein about the biography of Imam Nabi and how the ahadith, the 42 ahadith, the fundamentals of Islam. We saw that we gave some examples and seen how these are core and fundamentals of Islam. And as it said, this is the first hadith, which is about niyyah. Now, intention, of course, as a Muslim, we have to do good deeds. فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَ نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. As it said, whoever does good deeds, فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, Sakil, which is heavy, he does a lot of good deeds, which is coming from heavy, Sakil, and then he'll be in pleasure. And whoever does bad deeds, who has a lot of woman khaffa mawazinu, who has light, he doesn't have enough good deeds, he has more bad deeds than good deeds, he will be in nar, he will be in hellfire, he will be in nar. Now, but good deeds plus intention makes a good deed, because intention is again only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is going to be intention. So that's why we should always intend a good intention that is only for the sake of nobody save Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is what is niyyah. Now let's start this hadith. An Amir al-Mu'mineen Abi Hafs Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى، فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله، ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها أو يتزوجها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. رواه البخاري ومسلم. Now this hadith is very important. Let me translate it so we can see what is the meaning of this. Of course, this hadith has been mentioned in all 6 books, Sahih Sitta, in Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Sunnah Abi Dawood, which is again Tirmidhi, An-Nisai, in Ibn Majah. So there will be a little bit of differentiating of words. So you can use yatazawajuha or yinkihuha because it's mentioned in so much of books. I mean, in fact, all of them, all collections of hadith except Imam al-Malik's Muwatta. In fact, so there will be a difference of words. There's no problem in that. Now it is said, it is narrated by Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Abi Hafs, Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that I heard the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, indeed, deeds are with intentions. Verily, deeds are with intentions. Indeed and indeed, deeds are with intentions. Now, innama has come for emphasizing that yes, yes and yes. That is like to, make it more, what we call it, we can say that it is you could call it emphasizing and making it confirm, sure and important. Like most of the Quran, when it's said by swears, like tallahi, wallahi, wallahi, tallahi. So that is also another type of emphasizing in the Quran. But this is over here the emphasizing, which is innama, which is used for emphasizing. Innama al-a'malu binniyat. Now this word we have heard at least a lot of times in our life, so we must know what is this. Indeed, actions are judged by intentions. Now what does this mean? If we say the means that actions are by intentions, that whatever the heart intends, whatever the brain intends, that is what, then behold, that is what it's gonna be. That is what it's gonna be. So if you are praying salah for the sake of somebody else, then it is not. That is not a good deed. That is for somebody else. And as it said in the next part of this hadith, in the next portion of this hadith. Now, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Now this hadith was narrated by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when a man migrated from Makkah to Medina. Now if you see, what is migration? That we solely categorize what is migration. And migration can be, of different types. But migration is, there are different types of migration, different categories of migrations. But yes, they all meet the same object. They come to the same common point. That migration, its meaning is this. Hijrah's meaning is this. That we are, leaving, if we are in a neighborhood, we are leaving it for 2-3 years or even all of our lives, we are habitual to it. We can say we are habitual to that environment. We are, we can survive in that environment. That is a familiar environment to us. Okay, that's a familiar environment. But there's all familiar, this whole neighborhood is familiar, the whole community is familiar. But when you do hijrah, this is whole upside down. That we leave our surroundings, we leave our family, we leave our friends, we leave everything, we go to somewhere where there is nothing. That means that we are going to a whole entirely new place. You don't know where it is. No, you don't even know, the whole place. You are migrating from some place to a whole new, different place, from a familiar place to a whole new, different place. And this is a very tough, it's a very tough journey. It is a very tough journey. Migration is very tough. But when we are doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because, and yes, we are over here, when we are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are migrating from Makkah to Medina. That is a very big thing. But then there were some people who are doing this for riyah, show off or something else. Like, وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا. Now what does this mean? And whoever's migration is for some worldly thing he might gain, something he might gain. This is not for the term of show off, but this is the term for something else, something, he might gain. For example, marriage. So, yeah, أَوْ إِمْرَأَتِي يَنْكِحُهَا. And over here the word يَتَزَوَّجُهَا can also be used. Or a woman, he can marry. A woman he can marry. So that is another intention. فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Now this sentence is just brief but to the point. That then his hijrah, then his migration will be for what he migrated for. Then it won't be for something else. Whatever he intended for, whether it be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or for something else, for some worldly thing he might gain, it will be just for that. So if he does, if he goes and migrates for some worldly thing, it will be just for that. Then his hijrah, his niyyah will not be changed. His niyyah will be for that niyyah. Then his hijrah, then his migration is not going to be for ibadah. His migration is going to be for some other thing. His migration is going to be for something which is going to be what he intended for. Whether it be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it be somebody else, it will be just for that he intended. So if we see this hadith, one of the greatest hadiths in Islam, Imam al-Ahmad said that there are three three hadiths which revolve around, which Islam revolves around, which are the pillars, which are the fundamentals of Islam. That are the first hadith, which is an Umar ibn Khattab, which is this is the one which I narrated right now. The second hadith is by Umm Abdullah Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, that man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad. And then from Abdullah Nu'man ibn Bashir, that innal halala bayyin wa innal harama bayyin, that indeed haram is clear, indeed halal is clear, and between them there are umur mushtabihat, grey matters. And again, this is one of these hadith. And Imam Abu Dawood, who is the collection, who has collected one of the most authenticated and most popular collection of hadith in Islam, Sunan Abu Dawood, said that there are 4 hadith which Islam revolves around. Those are the first hadith, the 5th hadith, the 6th hadith which I mentioned, and the 7th hadith about nasiha, ad-dinu nasiha, kulna liman qala lillahi wa li kitabihi wa li rasulihi wa li a'immatil muslimina wa ammatihim. So, respected viewers, it's time for the break. Stay tuned, be patient, and we'll find out more about this hadith. Stay tuned.